So a great deal for me, what used to be a great deal was how much you could get for how much money. And now a great deal is how far can your dollars go to making the world a better place. If you're going to spend the $40 instead of trying to get to 35, I think the millennials and the Gen Zers generation is all about where that money starts circulating.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I mean, I saw this when I was at the World Fair Trade Organization. I saw this in various other guises as well, that there is a growing ethical market out there, and being able to very clearly and concisely tell your story of being ethical and being socially responsible can be a great competitive advantage. I think we're at the beginning of this journey, though, Linda. I think we need to get a bit more thorough, a little bit more sort of systematic in the way we understand those impacts. I think, some very these are very complicated companies. I don't know which box stores were amongst the set of options, but some might be part of conglomerates. Others might have sold off actually the majority of their shares from their founders. Others might have multiple other businesses that they're running, and across that, the behavior might, they might have an ethical brand that's alongside a very sort of lower ethical credential brand. So it's a complicated story. And do we all have time to do that analysis? I mean, when I was at Oxfam, I ran a campaign called Behind the Brands, where we actually rated and ranked the world's 10 largest food companies. And try to understand across the big issues, the 7 big issues of like climate, water, labor rights, etc., women's empowerment, all of these issues, how were each of them doing? And it was a mixed bag. Like each had some good bits, each had some bad bits, and some were, doing better with some products and not with others, and others were, great on issue A but not on issue B. It's quite complicated at the moment. And I think what we need is also a step change in the way we understand companies, from just a set of behaviors and a set of memorable controversies that may or may not have been reported on, to understanding who owns them. How is governance shaped? Who's on their board? Do workers have a seat on their board? Does the community have a seat on their board? Where do their profits go? Are their profits reinvested into social impact? Are they reinvested in the community to create more jobs? Or are they mostly extracted and paid out as dividends, primarily larger, lion's share going to billionaires? Those sorts of questions of getting to the power and the money, that feels very, very central.
Well, there seems to be a lot of people with a lot of zeal who would look into those and share it all over social media when they found the answers. I mean, that's the way we're doing it now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So back to the ordinary people like me. How do I know? How do I operate? When I walked out of the house, I could have sat in my car and looked at what to decide where to go for that sheet of plywood.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had a very snappy answer for you. You said if you see an I in their name, then do X, and if you see a C, then do, there isn't. Unfortunately, at the moment, there just isn't sort of an overarching way of immediately identifying. There are some rules of thumb, local businesses, ones that are owned and embedded in your community, ones that aren't here today, gone tomorrow, haven't sort of crunched some numbers on a spreadsheet and thought, actually, let's keep production in this state or this city or this country now, and it's a bit cheaper elsewhere. We shut down the factory, go somewhere else where taxes are lower or whatever. Those sorts of businesses are by and large going to be worse for society and our environment. And those that have got long-term commitment to their communities, that have been there for a long time, that are, that go eye to eye with their local, with their workers, where the bosses are maybe going to church on Sunday and sitting together with others who are in their company, ones where there really is, I think, that long-term relationship and dependence with the community and vice versa, is going to behave differently than ones that are in here today, out tomorrow. The private equity types that are just crunching numbers, that are going to be shifting people's lives immediately based on some notion of maximizing their own wealth. So I think that's a good rule of thumb. Smaller businesses tend to be more like that. They tend to be much more bringing in the human aspect of things. Certainly, we have amazing certifications out there that help. Fair trade certification and verification can be really useful in understanding how workers and farmers treated, who are actually making and growing the products that we're buying. B Corp certification I mentioned, but also others like cooperatives are by and large just a completely different kettle of fish. Social enterprises, a completely different world. And some of the more, I guess, founder-led businesses that haven't necessarily gone down that venture capital route, or haven't necessarily said, look, we're going to grow this business as quick as possible, as large as possible, but that have stuck with it and retain them as sort of family businesses that bring a bit more ethos into it. All of those can embody the kind of decisions we're talking about. But to be honest, I don't think we've invented yet the companies of the 21st century. We're still tweaking the 20th century ones. And the ones we need for the 21st century, where we're the first to see the selfie and first to realize the challenge ahead, I think we're going to be inventing these over the next coming decades. And for that, we're going to need an open mind. And for that, we're going to need a bit of innovation among us to think bigger than what's already present.